Okay, hey everyone. My name is Zach Greenberg,
I'm Abigail Rockland.
and we are part of the OU Accelerator team here this summer and today we are with Etiel and Lianne Forman from Teaneck, New Jersey. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with us. We're really excited to hear more about your story and your venture, and can't wait to get this started.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so I guess like a good opening question is always, can you give us a little bit about each of your background before just general background?
Sure.
I'm originally from West Hartford, Connecticut, and still call myself an out-of-towner, even though I've lived in New Jersey for more than half my life now. I met ETL at Columbia Law School. We're both lawyers by profession. I work part-time as an employment and contract attorney. We have 5 kids, one of whom is married with 2 little boys of his own, so we're also grandparents. And yeah, we're excited to be here.
And Lianne has covered most of it, but I grew up in Staten Island, New York, so I'm an in-towner, a New Yorker, although I now live in New Jersey. I am also a lawyer, as Lianne mentioned. I'm general counsel of a multinational valuation consulting, investigations, and corporate finance firm. And my real passion, though, is our venture, CCSA.
Wow, that's awesome. Wait, what led you guys to founding of CCSA? Well, first of all, I just want to say it out: Communities Confronting Substance Abuse. Got to get the full name out there. It's definitely yeah. But CCSA really rings off the tongue, though.
Yeah, we like that better.
we found the acronym first, and then back now. The acronym came from the name. But, yeah.
I mean, it's basically born out of our own personal experience. We unfortunately have a daughter who now is in recovery and has been in recovery for over 2 years. But at the time, a few years back, came to us, told us that she was struggling with substance abuse, asked us if we could help her. We tried talking to people. We talked to our rabbi of our shul, and we found that it was a subject that was largely taboo, stigmatized. Nobody really talks about it. And we felt very isolated, very alone. That was really the genesis of our efforts. Fast forward a little while later, she's down in Florida. She's in rehab. We were standing in line literally at Dunkin' Donuts in Teaneck. And in front of us happened to be our Rabbi Yosef Adler. And he turned to us, and since he knew the situation, he asked how she was doing. And we said, she's doing well, gave him an update. And being the sarcastic person that I am, I said, but Rabbi, you wouldn't believe it. We are the only family in Teaneck that has ever dealt with this issue. And his response was, if you only knew, which really got us thinking that we do not want any other family to have to go through this. It is a family disease. It is not just the person who's struggling and suffering from the disease, but the rest of the family that struggles as well. And that was the genesis of CCSA.
Wow. Okay. And what were the next steps?
Sure. So we actually were in touch with some folks from another organization that deals with substance abuse issues. We had this conversation with them and said, we need to do something in the Bergen County community. And that led us to organize an awareness event in April of 2018. And we had we put together a roster of speakers. We had a recovering, someone in recovery speak. We had a local rabbi speak, a clinician, and I spoke. And we did a lot of press leading up to it because we decided, Lianne's mantra about all this was go big or go home. If we were going to do this, we wanted to make sure we had as big an impact as we could. We spoke to each one of our children before we started and said, is everyone comfortable with us telling our story publicly? We explained, you're going to be known as the siblings of the of the person who is in recovery, and they all to a child said to us, if we can help even one person, there's no question that we should do this. And they really were our chizuk and our guiding force in moving this forward. So we did a lot of press around this awareness event. We honestly expected about 100 people to show up. Out of an abundance of optimism, we set the room for 500, kind of laughing at ourselves and saying, there are going to be so many empty seats. And at one point, as the room was filling up, someone turns to Lianne and says, "You should turn around." She goes, "I don't want to." I said, "No, you should turn around." And we turned around, and there were 700 people filling the room, standing in stairwells.
This is actually in TABC.
Yeah.
So imagine the new
Oh my
garage of TABC, down hallways, out the stairway. People couldn't even
at
get
that event.
there to park there.
Yeah, I think I was there actually. This was like a few years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I was.
2018.
And that was an awesome night.
Yeah, and there were 250 people watching online as well. And we knew we were having an impact when 2.5 hours into this program, you could hear a pin drop. And I know the last time you had 700 people in a room, no one's looking at their phones. People are just enraptured with what's going on. And so that we knew that night that there was more that we needed to do. And so we had the foresight to put feedback cards out that night, and we asked people in the community, say, well, what do you want? And the feedback cards came back, and there were really 3 major topics that people felt were important for us to address. One, there was a desire for a support group for loved ones of those who are suffering. And so we started that support group 2 years ago, and it's still running strong, sadly, to this day. The second was they wanted more community education. And so we've run a number of other events, including our first symposium of mental health and addiction, which we ran in 2019. We were scheduled to run the second annual symposium in May of this year, and then COVID hit. So we did some online programming instead, but we're looking forward, hopefully, to doing that in the fall if things open up. And then the third was really around the schools, and a concern that the schools really weren't doing enough to address this issue. And so we've spent a lot of time working with local middle schools and high schools in providing programming for students, for faculty, training on drug trends and signs and symptoms for faculty, and also parent programming, helping parents understand how to discuss these issues with their children, and how to deal with situations that arise. And those, to this day, are the 3 pillars from that awareness event. Have arisen the 3 pillars of really what we are addressing at CCSA.
Right. Wait, what are the 3 pillars again?
So the first is the support group. The second is community education awareness events. And the third is the school program.
That's awesome.
And you felt that those were the 3 that really had to be emphasized in order to fulfill your mission?
Well, I think those were the 3 that were the key elements of feedback that came from the people who attended the event. And I would say the last couple of years has just proven that out. I think that our philosophy is really that substance misuse and addiction is a communal problem and needs to be addressed with a communal solution. And I think each of those in its own way represents the communal solution to this problem. The support group is the community getting together. The community awareness events obviously are us discussing the issue and addressing the issue as a unified community. And obviously the schools are really the epicenter, certainly for our young people, of our communal life. So it really does fit very well to what we're trying to accomplish.
Is it just you guys on the team, or are there more people that also work with CCSA?
So, we have 2 board members, Livia Weisinger and Rochelle Zamek. That was born out of 2 incidents. One was after this awareness event, and there were a lot of stories that came out of this awareness event, including somebody I knew for a decade whose son is suffering from addiction. He had no idea about my daughter. I had no idea about his son, and yet we've known each other for 10 years.
Wow.
But I was in the parking lot, and Rochelle Zamek, whose daughter had gone to school with my daughter, and who we knew years and years ago, haven't had much to do with each other, stopped me in the parking lot and said, "I just want you to know if there's anything I can do. That event was amazing, and I want to be there to help you." And I said, "You're going to regret those words." And so I pulled her in as one of my board members. Livia Weisinger is a nurse. She is also a school nurse. And in one of the interviews that our daughter gave, she spoke about how she wished she could have spoken to somebody at the time, especially in high school, even a school nurse or somebody else, a guidance counselor, anybody, about what she was feeling. And Livia circled the word school nurse and sent it to me on a WhatsApp and said, what can I do? So I said, well, now you just leave yourself open for coming on board to CCSA. So they are our two primary people. We have a lot of people who volunteer, especially around the symposium last year. We have 3 professional facilitators for the support group who donate their time. We have been donated a space. We keep it confidential, so I'm not going to say it on the interview,
yeah.
but we've been donated a space to use for the support group when we are meeting live.
And we have an advisory board of some pretty darn impressive people,
Yeah.
which I often, whenever I look at that list, I kind of, I scratch my head and say, why are these people, working with us? But, clearly what we've identified is just a need that gets people excited about helping us. And that's been a real asset for us. So some really great people on our advisory board.
That's awesome.
Well, it sounds like you're helping a lot of people, so makes sense.
We set out with that mantra, if we can even help one. And, again, I mean, every time, and there are many, many conversations, but every time someone reaches out and says, can I talk to you? And we never say no, of course, and we're always happy to chat with anyone, anytime about anything. And every time, one of these conversations happens, I'll turn to Lianne or she'll turn to me and say, see, that's another person. It's all worth it. It's all worth it. And that really is what energizes us and keeps us going.
Although the perfectionist in me says, well, yeah, 1 was good, but now I want it to be 2. And 2 was good, but now I want it to be 5.
That's good. You always have to be 1 step ahead.
So 1 is not really enough.
Are you able to
One
share?
more.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to say that 1 more will be good
That is
enough.
good.
Always.
Are you able to share with us what quantify what your outreach has been, like how many schools
Sure.
or people you've impacted?
Sure. So to date, we've been in approximately 15 schools, mostly in the New Jersey area, but some in other places in the New York metro area. Our plan is really to take this to all, communities throughout North America. So that's really what's in the plans going forward. But to date, it's been 15 schools. We're already booking programming for the fall. We're hoping that we'll be in person, but we can do it by Zoom. We have done it by Zoom. I feel so badly for those students who have to watch it by Zoom, but we'd rather do it in person. So about 15 schools, I would say, our education and awareness events at this point have reached, probably a couple of thousand people. And articles that we've written and the like as well reached audiences certainly in the thousands. And the support group over its lifetime has probably, if I had to guess, 50, 60, 70 people or so that have rotated through at various times. And again, these are people very often who are either in crisis or certainly in the throes of helping a loved one. And so those are, those situations, are very emotionally draining. We at the end of the support group, Lianne and I often will kind of, let out a sigh and say, wow, that was an emotionally draining one. But by the same token, it's, that those people are getting a service and a resource that they just are not able to get elsewhere.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of, I kind of maintain the email address for the organization, and I get a lot of inquiries about the support group. I will tell you, for every person who's shown up, there are probably 2 or 3 more who have inquired about it, but have never come. And then if you multiply that exponentially, there are probably people who just don't even talk about it and don't even ask about it. So it's a prevalent problem. And we've gotten calls from people from, you name the community, we've gotten the call. Passaic, Lakewood, Muncie, 5 towns, you name it.
Los Angeles,
yeah.
Efrat.
It's great that our name is getting out there and we want to be a resource like that. It's just also demonstrates to us that this is a prevalent issue and it does not matter where you come from and what your background is.
Did you know that going in, or are you beyond shocked to see the numbers?
I wouldn't say we're beyond shocked. I think what went through our heads as I made that sarcastic comment to Rabbi Adler is that there is absolutely no way statistically nationwide that we're immune. There, even if you lived in a bubble and you never saw TV and you never were on the computer and you never got exposed to media or anything like that, which is not the cause of addiction. Addiction, again, is a disease. But, you know, people might say that because we live in a bubble, we're more immune from these things. We're not, and we knew that. And statistically, knowing that going in, the stories don't surprise us, they sadden us. They're even more sad from communities who do believe that they're immune and do believe that there's not a problem. You know, we have a hard time sometimes in terms of understanding how deep the problem could be, but we know it exists, and we're trying to tackle it any way we can.
I mean, I'm a bit of a data wonk, and so you know, I look a lot at a lot of the the surveys, and certainly the national numbers just suggest that, particularly for our younger people, this is an issue which is growing in severity and importance, not declining. And you know, I know that the Jewish high schools and day schools are compiling their own data, and we're not any better, or we're certainly not appreciably better than the national averages. So there's no doubt that we have, and it's not, by the way, it's not confined to young people. I mean, unfortunately, addiction and substance misuse does not discriminate on the basis of age, and we have seen many sad situations about adults who will end up with an opioid addiction as a result of being on painkillers for some surgery or wisdom tooth being extracted or something of that nature. So we always knew it was there. We now have confirmed that it's there, and serious, and we'd love to put ourselves out of business. We'd love to see this go away. I think addiction has been with the human race for thousands of years, and it's not going to go away. What we can do, hopefully, through, again, a communal response to this issue is help outcomes. And that's really at its core what we're after. If we accomplish what we've set out to accomplish, people who are suffering will have better outcomes because their community will be there to support them.
It's amazing. I think one thing that's boggling my mind, sure Abigail too, is if this is something that like in the Jewish community especially like isn't really like talked about, like how have you guys been able to find so much success, like getting like all these leaders on board and making it like more talked about, like how, like what's been like your big thing that you think you've done right
so
that's gotten to this far?
One of the unique things that we were able to bring to the table is our willingness to talk about our personal situation. And again, that was a very complex, difficult decision to make for us, and it's not for everyone. And people should not be expected to talk about their personal situations if they don't want to. It's a personal decision, and we have the utmost respect for people who want to keep things private. That's certainly their right and their prerogative. The stars aligned for us in that our family was willing to be public about it, as I mentioned. And Lianne and I have been community leaders. I mean, I was president of TABC back in the day. I've been on the executive board of Maya Note for many years. Lianne has been on shul board. She's, was on dinner committees. We're communal leaders. And so I think that when we came forward, those 700 people who showed up at TABC, some of it was morbid curiosity. It's like, wow, if it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. And so this is really one of those situations where you kind of see the hand of God pointing in a direction and saying, this is what you should be doing. And it's very hard to ignore when that happens. So I think that we put ourselves in a bit of a unique situation. And I think that the communal leadership that has rallied behind us has been waiting for this situation to really manifest itself, to have people like us to be able to rally around and really deal with this in a more public way. So, again, I mean, I think that I think this is something the community has wanted and needed for a long time. We're just really the catalyst. We're the vehicle that God chose to move this forward, and so we did.
Amazing.
Have you had a lot of success so far within your educational programming?
So I think the educational programming is off to a great start. I think that locally, we certainly have had good penetration into the Bergen County schools, and I will tell you the schools have been fantastic. Their receptivity to having us in and speak to their students, their faculty, to their parents has been really fantastic. And the schools really want to address this issue in a more direct and systemic way. I think there's a lot left to do. And I think that's really an important focus of ours, is really crystallizing our message, making the presentations better, getting out to a broader base of schools, and really making sure that every yeshiva middle school and high school in North America has the right kind of programming around substance misuse and addiction.
Yeah, and we've also had an amazing experience being able to partner with local resources that I don't think the Orthodox community would ever have taken advantage of prior to this. So we have partnered with the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. We actually had the acting prosecutor come meet with the RCBC, with the Rabbinical Council, all the Rebbeim in the Bergen County area last year.
What's a prosecutor? This might be a bad question, but
I'm sorry.
So the Bergen County Prosecutor, he's the chief law enforcement officer of the county. So just to give you some perspective, Chris Christie, whose name you heard of, used to be, he was a U.S. attorney, I'm sorry. Grabir Gurwal, who's now the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, used to be the Bergen County Prosecutor. He's actually the person who started this opioid addiction program that the prosecutor's office put in place. And they go into the public schools and do this presentation. They reached out to us. And said, we are dying to get into the Orthodox community. We want to partner with the Orthodox community and be there to serve them. And we said, well, your presentation isn't going to work in the Orthodox schools because there are things that are just not culturally sensitive in there. And they said, we will work with you. And so we sat with them for hours working through their presentation to make it culturally sensitive and appropriate for the yeshivos. And they send, narcotics detectives to come with us to do these presentations to the students. To our knowledge, no Orthodox community, certainly within Bergen County, is partnered with government resources the way that we have. And again, it just promotes the communal solution to the communal problem.
Okay, so jumping into some current events, I know you've definitely touched upon it, but how has COVID affected CCSA, and how have you adjusted in terms of running events? I mean, you said some virtual, but even with schools shutting down, wouldn't that
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately we had 3 schools scheduled for the spring, we got one session, and sometimes the schools break it up into 2 or 3 sessions depending on what we're doing, and the program is somewhat customizable. So in this particular case, we were breaking it up into 3 sections. We got 1 section done, and then the other 2 had to be canceled. Same thing with the other 2 schools. And then we were contacted by a middle school saying that, listen, we do not want our 8th graders graduating without something on substances or going into high school, and we really want to do something. So we actually did it online. Again, we engaged the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. They did their presentation via Zoom. We also work with the Bergen County Prevention Coalition. So we spoke to our coalition person, who was our contact there. She did her part, and we did our part. We presented as well. So it was good. I mean, we can see why, people criticize Zoom school because some of the kids weren't on camera, and, we weren't sure we had everybody's attention, but, it was successful for the most part. I think we had over 80 students on at a time. The other real benefit I shouldn't say benefit, but the ancillary benefit to COVID is putting the support group online has allowed us to penetrate into other communities. And we've had people come from the 5 towns, Muncie, we had people contact us from LA. They haven't joined yet, but they asked about it. So the word is getting around that there's this online support group. Again, it's professionally facilitated. So it's good for people to have as a resource, not just to meet people and dialogue with people who can give them support and who get it, but also to have somebody professional online who can kind of answer their questions and give them guidance. So that's been one, I guess, side effect.
I think that given the demand, there's a very good chance that we'll continue to have an online support group for people who can't meet locally, even when people are allowed to be closer than 6 feet apart. And without COVID, that never would have happened. So, again, you got to make lemonade out of lemons when you can.
You stole the quote from my mouth.
Yeah, and we did have to pivot. Like we said, we had the symposium last year. I think we had 250 people at a symposium. Dr. Norman Blumenthal, Lisa Tversky were our keynote speakers. We had breakout sessions on any number of topics under the umbrella of mental health and addiction. We were going to repeat the same event in May of this year. We had it all set up. COVID broke out, and that was the end of that. So we pivoted, and we had 2 people speak virtually about COVID, about social distancing, isolation, how that can impact somebody who's struggling with addiction, and just had an open discussion where we had people submit questions. And we actually are planning another online event, hopefully within the next few months, just to, keep going in that vein. When we can get back live again, we're hoping to, right now we have October as the new date for the symposium. Whether that's going to be live or not, we don't know. We might have to postpone it again and do another virtual event of a similar vein.
Yeah. My next question, you kind of answered a lot of it. I mean, you gave already some examples, but are there any lessons that you've learned from this Corona situation that can help with CCSA?
I mean, look, I think that isolation in particular and the impact on people's mental health, broadly speaking, and certainly people who suffer from substance misuse and addiction. I wrote an article about it, in April, which was published in the Jewish Link. But isolation is deadly, and it really exacerbates all sorts of situations. And it didn't take long, but I think as quarantine kind of dragged on, the people who we work with, who are in our support group or who we're in contact with, we're seeing real problems crop up, in situations, get exacerbated. And I think that, that part of the public health equation is very easy to kind of give short shrift to, and it's a mistake because there's a whole group of people who are suffering silently because of the isolation.
It sounds like you're really doing a lot of great things. Can you, sort of shifting gears a little bit, tell us how you heard about the accelerator, what the application process was like, what it was like to get in, and anything else in between?
So I am friendly with Reva Judas, Nechama Comfort, and she knows us and she knows what we're doing. And she said, you guys need to apply for this next year. You need to apply for it. I'm sure you can imagine her doing it. I can't really do Reva Judas. But she spoke to us about her experience, and we said, yeah, this sounds great. We looked into it. We applied. The experience has been really educational and eye-opening. I think that, first of all, seeing the presentation night, and, we didn't know going in how many organizations had actually applied. So it feels really significant to us that there were so many applicants, and then, it got whittled down to the interviews, then it got whittled down to the presentation night and pitch night. And then we were selected, amongst that crew, and we were very impressed by the other people who pitched that night.
Yeah, it was really a very interesting set of emotions. On one hand, you're in a competition. And so, yeah, you want to win because there's something good for winning. I mean, the OU Accelerator program is a fantastic program, and we wanted to win. By the same token, you look around at all these people doing all this great stuff, and you're just like, no, we're all on the same team here. There's so much great stuff going on in the Jewish community. It was really a humbling experience. The other ironic part of pitch night was, the OU did it as part of the NCSY Jump Conference this year. Our youngest daughter, was on Jump. So
What's Jump again?
I'm sorry?
What's Jump again?
So Jump is,
I forget what the acronym stands for. It's
Jewish,
I don't know, leadership.
Mentorship program, something mentorship program. I with apologies to NCSY, I don't know what all their acronyms stand for, but it was a program where the students were challenged basically to come up with their own ideas, chesed ideas, and in this kind of conference type setting. And so the OU decided to have pitch night as part of their conference. And so we found ourselves presenting to our daughter and her friends amongst the other couple hundred people sitting in the room, which was kind of interesting and funny and, actually very good for her, because I think, for her and her friends to be able to see us up there, with these other organizations kind of made it very real.
The best part of that was that, we were the second half of the presentation. So she actually took notes on the first pitches and came up to us and said, you should do this because you shouldn't do that. So she coached
strategizing
us a little bit more successful.
Yeah, but I will tell you that getting word that we were selected was really probably one of the most impactful moments of in the lifetime of our venture. I mean, it really, we think is going to help propel us forward in a way that I don't think we would have been able to do without the OU's assistance.
So can you tell us more about what you've gained now that you're in it and you got here? What have you gained from the experience?
So look, there's a lot. I mean, the seminars and the sessions that the OU provides with people who are truly experts and luminaries in their fields are incredibly informative. Lianne and I have both, been lawyers and lived a professional life for many years, but we are not entrepreneurs. We are not not-for-profit experts by any stretch. And so, the information that's been provided has been really great. I would say, though, the two things that really have had the biggest impact on us so far, positive impact, one is the mentorship program. The mentors who are kind enough to donate their time to have one-on-one conversations with us, just to network, just to bounce ideas off, just to talk about, help us figure out how to take our program and really launch it nationally. These are people who we never would have had access to, or would have certainly had more trouble getting access to. And so having that has been a game changer. And the second, believe it or not, is the interns. We have three fantastic interns. Not you guys. You guys are accelerator interns. You're great too. But we have three fantastic interns working for us this summer. And again, another blessing of COVID. So many, college students lost their jobs, their summer jobs. We have real talented people who are passionate about what we're doing, helping us really get things in order. And so we're really utilizing them and getting, I think, more value out of that than certainly we ever would have gotten. I never would have thought to do this without the OU program.
Can you share has there been any specific advice that a mentor has given you that really helped out you or CCSA?
No, we've got a lot of advice.
I just, one piece of advice, and one of the mentors, one of the big challenges that always faces ventures like ours is fundraising and raising money. Asking for money, no matter what, is just always a challenge. And, he turned to us virtually, and said, you have a little bit of chutzpah. You believe in what you're doing. You need to think big. You need to ask people for significant sums of money because you deserve it. And it was the first time that someone actually put it into that context and said, yeah, we deserve it. Not we deserve it because of who we are, but we deserve it because we're doing good for the Jewish community. And it's important for us to allow others to participate in that, through their assistance and providing funds.
Right. And we're not trying to line our own pockets. And he was trying to, he was making, because it's very hard to ask for money, but he's like, but you're not asking for, can I have $10 so I can go get, you're asking for something for a larger cause, which is, yes, you're behind it, but you're not asking for you.
And so that, I think, was one of the amongst the many pieces of advice, that's one that really stuck out in our minds.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. It's you never think about it like that, in terms of I've never thought about you're saying help me, help us in a way, not help me, help for me. It's
right.
Great.
Yeah.
Or let me give you the opportunity to help a whole bunch of people that we're trying to help also.
Right.
Yeah.
If you believe in what you're doing, then.
Yeah.
Passion has gotten us this far, so.
So now passion just needs to get you to that one more.
Right.
Exactly.
What's been the most rewarding point in your process to where you are today?
So I'll give mine. I don't know if you have a different one, but for me, it happened really early on. And it was actually after the initial awareness event. And one of our children came up to us and just gave us a big hug and said, now I understand what we're doing and why we're doing this. And never in a million years did I think that the positive impact would be felt so quickly, so close to home. but frankly, the positive impact that this has had on our family, and particularly that initial awareness event, the impact it had on our immediate family, was profound. And I'm incredibly thankful for that.
I mean, that was an amazing moment, and mine will be second to that. No, I think that was incredible. I think, you know, there's sort of a collection of moments and stories and people coming up and, you know, in Amazing Savings at a soccer game, you know, and there was a lot of me too. My brother, my wife, you know, my son, stories, sad stories of people who were lost to overdoses, you know, happy stories of recovery, and then everything in between on the spectrum. We went to do an event actually at TABC also. We were doing a faculty training at TABC, and Rabbi Adler, who is, you know, lovely and he's an amazing person. He's not very effusive. And he came, and we've known him for years and years and years since we moved to Teaneck. And he came up to us and he said, just kind of shook his head and said, "You have no idea what you've done for this community. You have no idea. You have changed everything tremendously that I can't even put into words." And he just kind of went on about the impact, and you know, you don't know it until you hear it, and sometimes you'll never know it. And again, you know, like you said, Abigail, like you may have touched somebody's life, 2 lives, 10 lives, and you may never know that. But you know, he is somebody in a position of authority in the community. He's somebody who's aware of that ripple effect. And when he said that, I was blown away. I just, you know, I knew we had an effect. I knew we reached, you know, about 1,000 people in one night, which is incredible in and of itself. But the way he said it just always resonated with me.
And I need to like think about that for a second before I ask my next question. That was beautiful. Wow. On a lighter note, do you have, especially because your background is so not geared towards what this is, tips to someone who's starting a venture?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the biggest tip I have for someone who's starting a venture is, you know, never believe anything's impossible. I mean, I think that you know, so much of what we've accomplished has just been because we've never believed that we can't do it as an option. And so, yeah, Lianne said it, passion has gotten us this far. Passion is what gets you to believe in the impossible. And that would be tip number one, that I would give, and, you know, and believe in yourself. I mean, it's trite, but it's really, you know, you have to believe in yourself and in your convictions. And if you do, you're going to be successful.
I really believe that the mantra I used leading up to the event, and it really was to steel myself, because this wasn't just ripping off a Band-Aid. This was, you know, basically exposing ourselves completely to, you know, who knew how many people at the time, but go big or go home. That you have to really go at this with your whole heart and soul. Use that passion, channel it productively. I think from a more practical point of view, my head goes to, you know, treat this as a business. You have to think about it more logically, you know, more organized. For us, it was kind of came naturally because of our backgrounds in law, and that's how we think, and that's, you know, what we do. But it almost surprised us, even given, I mean, he has an MBA, you know, even given our educational and professional backgrounds, it surprised us that a not-for-profit is at its core a business, and we still have to think of it that way to make it successful. But I think go big or go home. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to go for it.
So that's great. All amazing like tidbits for people out there. I guess kind of our last question to wrap it up is, if you have any tips to like a family that's dealing with addiction, like do you have any like tips for them?
Well, number one, call us.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Number one, reach out. You know, it's.
What's the website again?
I'm sorry. Website is www.time2talkaddiction.org. So time2talkaddiction.org is the website. Look, I would say the most important thing, particularly if it's a child, you know, to maintain your relationship with your child, no matter what. That was advice we got early on. And it just makes it so much easier when your child is ready to repair that relationship, if you have done everything in your power to maintain the relationship. And also the other, I mean, look, I could go on for hours on this, but I won't, because I know it's your last question. We want to wrap this up. The only other thing I would say is just remember, this is a disease. It's not who your loved one is. The disease is behaving the way. Depersonalizing the disease is an important strategy. You love your loved one. Your loved one is a good person. This disease has their clutches in that person, and you just need to separate that out. It helps with empathy. It helps with just being able to keep your head about you as you're trying to help your loved one.
And, our best piece of advice also to people is take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of, and it's a very hard thing to do and something we didn't listen to at the beginning at all, and paid for it. You need to take care of yourself, because you need to be ready when that person needs your help. You need to be ready to be able to help them. And if you're not in a position because you haven't taken care of yourself and done what you needed to do for yourself, that's never going to happen. And that's true of any loved one. I mean, we do have, we have spouses, we have siblings, we have grandparents, we have children. So this is not, again, unique to just a parent-child relationship. This is any loved one who is struggling with this disease.
All right, that's amazing. Yeah, this was inspiring talk. I really appreciate you guys coming down to speak with us, taking the time out of your day. It's been really,
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Thanks, and thanks to the OU for everything they're doing for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good night to everyone listening.
Thank you.